especially our team, our project team, and also our guests who came here to listen to the results of our work. Our today's conference is the closing conference of the project funded by the Visegrad Fund. The project concerned the question of welcoming Ukrainian refugees in the four Visegrad countries when the war started, especially in 2022 and the first half of 2023. The objective was to identify the good practices that were developed, implemented, and practices that can be used further in future in similar situations. Using the examples, the cases of all the four analyzed countries. The project was led by Professor Dorota of the University of Wrocław. And as you can see here, we succeeded. We remembered with Judith that last year when we met at the opening conference, we had those doubts. Is it actually possible to do within 1 year? And yes, maybe it was not possible, but anyways, it was done. And the book is virtually ready. It will be available in open access, online in open access within a couple of weeks, and also a printed version that will be available for purchase from the publishing house Routledge. Today, we are starting the closing conference to sort of sum up what we learned, what we analyzed, and we start with two presentation sessions, and then we'll go on with a roundtable discussion. So thank you very much, and over to Dr. Monika Bikłacz, who will moderate the first session.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see from the program, there is a little change. I'm stepping in for our friend Agnieszka Makarewicz. So please keep me patiently because I wasn't directly involved in the project, but of course I'm in a great awe of what you have done so far, and I'm hoping for the great future of this project. And today, as Dorota mentioned, we will discuss the findings of your collaborative work. Yes, and I think that for the listeners, yes, for the viewers of the discussion, it will be even more visible and striking how important this work is, not only from the point of research, but also from the point of practice. More, yes, from the point of practice. And as you can see, there are four speakers today in the first session. So, of course, I will give some rude signs to keep up, yes, with the assigned time. Let's have an agreement that each speaker for 15 up to 20 minutes, yes, and then we will have some time for questions, yes, and inquiries, yes, from our colleagues, yes, and listeners. Yes, so in here, treat me as a very curious and interested dilettante. And let's welcome the first speaker, Ms. Małgorzata. Incidentally, you once again will steal the floor. It's yours.
Thank you.
Małgorzata will speak about numbers and profiles of Ukrainian refugees in the four countries.
Yes, I will start with yes, it is. I will start with a short introductory presentation to help us understand what challenge the Visegrad countries were dealing with after the war started. To begin with, the sheer numbers. The total number of people displaced due to war, which started in 2022, was over 10 million. To see it in perspective, we need to realize that the entire population of Ukraine before the war was 45 million. So we are looking at 25% of population displaced, and majority of those people who were displaced were forced to flee their place of residence, decided to go abroad. So it's over 3.5 million internally displaced people and 6.5 million people displaced outside, so leaving Ukraine. And of those who left Ukraine, almost 6 million, so 90% remained within Europe, as only a small portion decided to travel to other continents. The biggest destination, the most important destination being Canada. When we look closer at the picture inside Europe, we can see that the Ukrainian refugees spread throughout the continent to virtually all countries, but the biggest number, the only group that exceeded 1 million is now in Germany. Until summer 2023, first spot was held by Poland. Only in summer, so many, the group of refugees who left for Germany grew so much that Germany has the largest population of Ukrainian refugees. To highlight the importance of our research, please note that I marked the Visegrad countries, so we have Poland on this, in the second spot, and Czechia in the third spot, and Slovakia only a couple of places below. Hungary holds a smaller population of Ukrainian refugees at the moment. However, these concern the absolute numbers, but I think it is also important to have a look at the proportion. So it is not only important how many people came, but also how many people are able to welcome them. And now we can see that although Germany welcomed the largest group, it's not the biggest ratio, the biggest share. Still, 1.5% of the population of the entire country. That's an immense, that's a huge share. Yeah? But when we look further, in Poland, it's 2.5%. In Czechia, it's over 3%. The highest share is in case of Moldova. And this country was not covered by our research. Another statistic that also, as you can see, Hungary once again is much lower with much lower percentage, but we have to bear in mind this characteristic program with which Hungary stands out. This is not only the point about people who are here, who stayed in those countries, but there were many more who came and then left. So here you can have a look at the number of border crossings. These are individual cases of a person going through the border from Ukraine into the listed countries and backwards. So these are not the numbers of people, because if someone, and of course we know it happened multiple times that people went back and forth. So those are counted as multiple instances. The importance of those numbers lies, maybe I think that Hungary is the most characteristic in this case. We have to realize that the people came and they needed some immediate support, and then they left. So these differences should help us realize this difference. While Poland, especially Poland and Czechia, had to deal a lot with helping Ukrainian refugees to integrate, to settle in their countries, Hungary mostly faced the challenge of assuring instant, immediate support, information support, transport support, and so on, for people who came and then decided to move further on. But it doesn't mean that they did not need support in Hungary. This was still needed, although a little different. Returning to my to the question I asked in the topic of my presentation, who's coming, I would start with stating the important fact: all the data I give you here are estimations. We do not have full-scale, fully reliable service on the refugees. They come in, they move, they're very flexible, they have to adapt constantly, so it's very difficult to catch the entire group and to catch their profile, which also results in various challenges. The best known probably being the problem of Ukrainian children who miss out from all the education systems. Yeah? So we know there are large groups of Ukrainian youngsters who come to other countries and they neither follow the Ukrainian program online nor join local schools. But as we do not have full registers, full lists, it is very difficult to ensure help for those people. And as you can see, the share of children was immense. It was about 40%. These are current data. So these are not data for the populations coming in 2022. We have data for March, April, May 2024, the latest available. As you can see, those were 40% or 40% were children, and the gender profile is also very, very clear. These are 70, 80, 90% women. This is also the parameter that was changing during the, for example, when I can compare the data I collected for the book last year, and I can see now this feminization is further increasing. The share of women is further increasing. The main refugees were mostly elderly men, so we can clearly see this predictable profile of women and the elderly escaping with children, and healthy males staying to fight to defend Ukraine. As a result, the most characteristic, the most common example of a refugee household is a single person taking care of either one or more children, sometimes or more, not so frequently, but also taking care of another dependent person, for example, someone with disability or someone elderly. When we have a look at geographical patterns of settlements, so what were the choices made by the refugees, where to settle, where to stay in the countries, in the destination countries. The strongest, the most characteristic predilection is for the biggest cities and surrounding regions. Yeah, we can see it in the map of Poland. We can also see it on the map of the Czech Republic. Around the biggest cities are those units where the share of refugees is the highest. That's natural that the choice is led by especially employment possibilities. Yeah. Although I have to say that those choices varied during an interview I had with the municipal officials here in Wrocław. They mentioned that there were some Ukrainian refugees who came from countryside, and for them it was a blessing that they were helped to relocate to rural areas here in Lower Silesia, because with all the trauma they experienced as war victims and refugees, coming suddenly into a big city was yet another shock for them. So those stories were different, but mostly the choice was led by employment and accommodation possibilities, and that resulted in the concentration in big cities. One more element that should be mentioned that will probably also return to in the presentations, because in our book this is something that was very significant and very frequently met. That's the network of former Ukrainian migrants in Visegrad countries, especially in Poland and Czechia. There were significant communities of Ukrainians who came to those countries before the war, and they provided excellent support for refugees with their, of course, perfect knowledge of Ukrainian and Russian languages, with already advanced knowledge of the local languages and local formalities, etc. So that was also an element that was taken into account, and we can clearly see it was a factor in those choices. Another area I would like to look at very shortly is about educational background and employment. As you can see, this was a very well educated group. So those who escaped from Ukraine into the Visegrad countries, these are really immense shares of people with university education and with secondary education. It's much more problematic when you associate it with the other graph showing the knowledge of local languages. Although, once again, comparing it with the data I collected for our group 1 year ago, they've done an incredible job. I mean, 1 year ago, the data were more like 5, 10, 15% of refugees declaring that they know the local language. And as you can see in Poland, Czechia and Slovakia, it grew significantly. Not in Hungary, but that's quite natural, because for a native Ukrainian speaker, learning Hungarian is a much bigger challenge than learning Polish, Czech, or Slovakian. Still, the language skills are certainly a barrier for the refugees, resulting in their employment, frequent employment, below their skills, their competencies, and also below the positions they used to take in Ukraine. So that also adds to the frustration. However, I will not stop long at here, because we will also talk more in detail about that further. Just to highlight the very big percentage of Ukrainian refugees who either work or want to or seek employment. If you associate it with the fact how many of them are single guardians of children and dependent people, you realize how determined this community is to regain control over their own lives as far as this is possible in a refugee situation. And finally, looking at their plans, this is always very difficult, because You ask people about their plans in a refugee situation. They speak about what they plan now, and with the war situation changing, they will also have to adapt their plans. But as you can see, a vast majority at this point in Poland and Slovakia, a vast majority intends to remain in the host countries they are in now. At this point, very few, quite low percentages consider coming back to Ukraine at this moment, while the war is still pending. So we can see how important it is to look at the good practices, because we're here at the Ukrainian refugee community and local societies. We're here, and we have to look closely at solutions that will help us function together. Thank you very much for your attention.
I did. Yes, okay, thank you very much. And so we got the information about those first variables, yes, from the point of border crossing, what to do next, yes, how can we help next, yes, or what practices should be employed. And now we will approach this topic. Let's welcome researchers from University of Lviv, Julia Sipecka and Ivan Franco. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Yes, and we will hear the presentation about immigration policy and support for refugees from Ukraine.
Yes, I need help in a presentation. Sure.
Nothing else? I don't know what happened. No music.
Okay, hello, I'm from Ukraine, from the university. Thank you for congratulations for invitation, and for collaboration in this project. And I'd like to see you and have an opportunity to present our point of view from Ukraine. The topic is migration policy and support for refugees from Ukraine. I'd like to start with telling that Russian invasion. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Russian invasion in February 2024 brought the worst migration crisis in Ukraine history and led to the largest flow of war refugees from Europe from the Second World War. Millions of people fled the war, and the countries of Visegrad Group have played a key role among the countries receiving refugees from Ukraine. This is extended not only by geographical factors, but common border and also long tradition of collaboration between our countries in history before. I'd like say that the European Union quickly took up protection of citizens from Ukraine who fled the country, and just 10 days after the Russian invasion, the European Union passed a legislation activating the temporary protected directive for the first time since 2001. According to this law, Ukrainian refugees need only present an identification card or passport to receive temporary protection status. This year, the Ministers of International Affairs of European Union countries extended this directive for another year for 2025. According to the official data, due to Russian aggression, At the end of November 2022, 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine were registered in Poland, almost 500,000 in Czech Republic, 2,000 in Slovakia, and 31,000 in Hungary. Many of them lost their relatives, were left without housing, without work, and without means of livelihood. The vast majority of European countries have opened their doors to Ukrainians in order to provide them assistance, including accommodation, food, employment, and so on. And I'd like to meet that Poland received the largest number of refugees, and a significant number of refugees also went to Germany. Here you can, this data from December 2023. So you see Germany, Poland, Great Britain, Czech Republic, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, Ireland, Austria, Romania, Belgium, France, and these numbers you can see. I will not stop on there and move for. And I'd like to say about socio-economic characteristics of refugees. I see that almost 63% of Ukrainians living abroad are adults, 22% are children under the age of 18. Among migrants from Ukraine who are informed, women predominate. They are over 70% of respondents. I made a study of Narodowy Bank Polski, study the life and economic situation of migrants from Ukraine, both the impact of pandemic and war in the nature of migration in Poland. This study deserves special attention. It was conducted in 2023 and indicates difference between migrants who came to Poland before the war and refugees that came after the war, after the February 2022. And difference is significant. What are the differences between these refugees and migrants? First of all, among adult refugees in Poland, a significant proportion are women, 50% versus 54% among program migration. Another tendency among the migrants from Ukraine, persons with high education predominate. With the beginning of the war, the share of people over 16 among the refugees have not decreased, and we understand why it is. On the other hand, program migrants were characterized by a much better knowledge of Polish language and more frequent employment. 94% of respondents versus 65% among refugees. Program migrants also declared their desire to stay in Poland, currently more, 55% versus 19% among refugees. Within 9 months of the start of the war, the integration of refugees from Ukraine in Polish labor market and their economic independence improved significantly. However, about 20% of them are people who live in Poland from day to day. 7. Migrants most often worked in industry and the service sector, which did not require high qualification. Among the refugees, the largest group was persons who provide services to households. Knowledge of Polish language opens the door, and it is closely related to the possibility of employment. 50% of the group that did not speak Polish worked, and who know Polish, 82%. The process of adaptation of Ukrainian citizens to life and work in Poland would be facilitated by a system consisting of organization of Polish language courses, simplified legislation, and stay notifications of diplomas and assistance in employment. Immigrants support their families in Ukraine. It's more than 60% of them transfer money to home. In Poland, there is regional difference in the resettlement of the war refugees and migrant workers. Refugees from war settled relatively often in Mazovian and Lower Silesian voivodeships. Labor migrants were in Pomorian and Lower Silesian voivodeships. Also, we can divide refugees from Ukraine in different groups. First, classic refugees, 25% of total number. They're mostly middle-aged women, most of them with children. They are most likely to be in Poland in large cities. People from this group more often than another choose the host country because its geographical position to Ukraine. These people are not very well adapted to life abroad, no language of the host country worstly, and rarely have friends among the local population. Another group was the labor migration, 28%. They are most adapted to life abroad. Most of them have previously been outside Ukraine. Compared to other group, people in this group are most likely to know the language of the host country with a high level. Also, they are most indicated to work abroad, satisfied with their stay abroad and with government services, have less problems, and most positively evaluated their attitude of love towards Ukraine. Third group, professionals, 28%, are more likely to work in their own specialty. People from this group have relatively comfortable living conditions and have in the host country. They received more assistance than other groups. The country of residence has chosen because of present friends, knowledge of language, and good attitudes towards Ukraine. Second and fourth, people from the next group, people who come to country from the war zone, 16%. These refugees are not adapted to life abroad, but are mostly ready to adapt because they are less about returning to Ukraine. These people suffered mostly from the war and most tend to live in small towns. Before the war, most of them are working, most ready to find work abroad. And here you have seen the question, are refugees ready to return to home? And this depends on different factors. 62% of Ukrainian refugees are ready to return, and it depends on the situations it will be in Ukraine. The main factors that block the return of refugees to Ukraine, it's uncertainty about their future, lack of security, material support, and as well as energy crisis. When we talk about the adaptation and integration of Ukrainian refugees, from 5.6 million to 6.7 million of Ukrainians find and growth. It's a statistics group center of economic statistics. And it depends on different factors. First of all, the possibility of obtaining the individual identification number, for example, Poland, which allows opening a bank account and provides access to the labor market, education, and social benefits. Another, we talk about a government agreement to compensate the cost of housing Ukraine's refugees in Polish family homes and private hotels. 30 Ukrainian children have gained an opportunity to study in Polish schools. In particular, it is possible to open school branches in places of temporary accommodation and parallel Ukraine's classes in Polish schools. Another factor is simplification of system of recognition of qualifications, for example, for doctors, for nurses, were introduced. But despite the recommendation of experts, the law does not consider simplified recognition for teachers, educators, and psychologists from Ukraine. All adults from Ukraine who arrived after February 24 have the opportunity to work legally. For now, the same rules as in 2023 remain for refugees. Ukrainians have arrived of free housing for a period of 120 days after the 40-plus program, as well as free housing for people with disabilities, pensioners, pregnant women, mothers with their babies, and there are also given the possibility of official employment provided by PC. It is used 13 days from the moment of arrival in Poland, free medical care, education assistance, as well as the possibility of receiving a monthly payment for each minor child. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Visegrad 4 countries for sheltering the helping of Ukrainian refugees, especially Poland, as a country that first and most helped the refugees from Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Got some additional data which we can cross-examine with
Any questions?
Let's leave the questions for the second part. No, for the second part of the meeting. And we have like different sources, yes, of this data, so it's a quite valuable aspect, yes, that we can do it. And also, I think that the issue of the higher education in refugees is also the factor for good practices, yes, of crisis management. This is something specific to the traditions, yes, let's say, of help. Okay, and now let's welcome the third speaker, who is Paweł Hulec from West Bohemian University in Pilsen, and he will also talk about the first steps of support. We can see that probably the moment of border crossing are the most crucial, the first days of course are the most crucial ones, yes, for the system as a whole.
Hi, it's nice to see you. My name is Paweł Hulec, and I would like to present the contents and the conclusions of my chapter that's called First Step Organizing Support Location of Refugees Categories. So, if we start at the beginning, and what for me consists of first step practice. For me, it's some kind of measure, some kind of operation, please focus on rehabilitation to the environment in destination countries and students of India. It's something that is offered to refugees immediately after they cross the border or settle in a town or city of their choice in one of the foreign countries. And I think that this kind of first step is crucial, and it has a lot of importance for refugees because these first steps create an environment and create some first impression of the country that the refugees are coming in, and also similar to other kind of measures. The first are crucial to help the refugees to settle in, and it is crucial in the way that it affects next steps and probability of success of other integration policies. And if you look at those first steps, they are hugely influenced by the spot-dependent processes we have in individual countries, and it also helps to explain why are first steps, and the results of the first steps are very similar in V4 countries, with a little exception of Hungary, because as we all know, even the position of central government in Hungary was a little that was a little bit which I will urgently calculate. And if we look at what are the first efforts? What are the main areas in first practices? I identified 3 of them, and it was providing information, working as support centers, and direct financial assistance. And I will in turn speak about each of them. If we start about providing information, where practices and good practices, in this case, we had from the beginning, from February 2022, initiatives to help migrants to orient themselves in new environments. Because before countries have different legal systems, different support systems to Ukraine, and a lot of people coming here were unfamiliar with the way things work here. So from the day one of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we mostly see some kind of specialized websites that are really neatly set up. You can see two examples in the slide behind me. The one above is from the Czech Republic, on the low is from Slovakia, and it is kind of a real choice, because these websites are easily accessible, are user friendly, and for a lot of people, like this first instinct of what to do when you are coming to your country and trying to find some information is right in Google, something like that. And so we can see that most of these websites are really user-friendly and really set up for the refugees. They have most of the important topics there, they have FAQs, they have what language support. So these things work quite well. But official state channels have most of the time nothing to do with this. Official channels were hosted by Telephone, which also works well. for some people, but the telephone has its own drawbacks. You can't access it 24/7. It is often not so easily accessible because of language and things like that. But as you can see on the forms of websites, there are ways to help to provide information, provide it quickly, free of charge, and this is also all very important for practice to observe the practice. It had to be free of charge, it had to be accessible and things like that. But what was most visible in this kind of first step practices were welcoming and support centers. We often saw either immediately at the border in larger cities and towns in individual countries that there are specialized centers that concentrate services or help and are aimed to help the refugees in a number of ways. Especially at the borders, these centers were more like humanitarian oriented to provide food or beverages, temporary accommodation and things like that. And in larger cities, it was more oriented towards legalizing the stay as kind of signpost to show the refugees who have to go out for help and for support. We can also see two examples in the slide above me. The one above is from Bratislava, the one below is from Humanitarian. And we had general centers, like the ones we can see all on the slides, that offer quite a huge number of services, especially the one in Bratislava. We had like 2,000 people a day capacity, so it was really big. Or specialized ones offer psychological help that were legalizing the stay of the migrants and so on. And we can see that often these centers were evaluated well by the refugees, that they were able to find those centers, that they were able to get what they needed from these places. And it saved time. It was, in most cases, were very well organized because these centers were often managed and financially and organizations supported by municipalities with the support of local NGOs that had this kind of specialized knowledge how to work with migrants and things like that. And what was shown to be the most important factor in functioning of those centers was delegation in their capacity. To be good practice, these centers should be really accessible with people with disabilities, and it should have sufficient room and sufficient number of employees or volunteers to run those centers, because often there are long queues because of the unexpected number of migrants coming to the countries. And one of the characteristics of this refugee wave, especially in Poland, which is Republic, was the kind of imbalance because some cities, for example, Poznań, where I live, was really hit hard by the number of refugees that came in the first days in very large numbers. So that was welcoming and support centers. And the third area of good practice that I saw that was direct financial help. Because when you look at the refugees, they often lacked basic necessities of life. They didn't have any kind of access to their own savings. So there was a move towards this kind of cash-based systems. And we can see, for example, in Hungary, so-called Humanitarian vouchers, the refugees got the vouchers, and they exchanged the vouchers for like basic services, basic food stuff and things like that. Or in the Czech Republic, we had humanitarian benefits, which was 5,000 crowns, and refugees could get 5,000 crowns for a month, for a period of time, for 6 months, if I remember correctly. And especially this kind of benefit in the Czech Republic is like textbook example of non-stigmatizing assistance, because everyone could get it. There was no means testing or something like that. It wasn't targeted, so it was great. The negative side of this situation in the Czech Republic was that the labor offices who are responsible for distributing the benefits, and labor offices in the Czech Republic are underfunded and undermanned. So this was a huge blow to their capacity, and so there was like long queues, people were getting angry and things like that. So the design was okay, but the implementation was like so. And if we try to draw some conclusions from these good practices and what it means for organization of support of those first steps. As I have mentioned several times, there's a huge need for coordination and support from different kinds of agents to manage the refugee crisis. And if we look at the situation in the Czech Republic that I am most familiar with, we can see that we managed the crisis because of like unprecedented way of coordination and help from NGOs, municipalities, even from central government, even though the participation of central government was quite limited in most of the countries, and all of them in Hungary. And we can see that in municipal context, those support centers became often a kind of local hub for most of the agents to meet, to coordinate their services, and we can see it in the city of Poland. As we can see it in the picture, it is a support center that's of most, it means bridge in Czech, and it became a place where municipal representatives, like NGOs, where migrants representatives, where Ukrainian diaspora met, shared their stories, shared their experiences, and coordinated their response to make the situation of refugees better. And this leads me to the conclusion from the policy side that if we need to have efficient policy towards migrants in the early stages of their arrival, we focus on coalition building and creation of stable institutionalized networks, because it's important to recognize that everyone is good at something, and if we have stable institutionalized networks, we can utilize all of the partners. And the conclusions, and I thank you for your attention.
Pavel showed the importance of those spontaneous self-governing networks. I thought it was the case of Poland, but I see that it was the shared experience, yes, with the central governments lacking, yes, heavily in this regard, yes. So we can see that the core of those networks were volunteers, yes. Hence, yes, let's welcome our next, thank you, Pavel, our next guest here, Elżbieta Brosnanowa and Jana Solsova from Matejbel University, who will share their reflections about volunteers, yes, in the times of crisis. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let me continue with this topic, the involvement of volunteers in the time of the Ukrainian crisis. And I will have a little bit different presentation because we came up with very interesting like numbers and insights from the other research project that was focused on the volunteering during the time of the crisis in Slovakia. But I know that a similar situation was, for example, in Poland. In the book, I researched something about like how were the volunteers involved. So as we know, and also Pavel presented, that there was a crucial role during the early stages of the war and also later in the integration played by the civil society, but not only the formal part of the civil society, but also the informal part. So we know that also during this crisis, we call it like a wave of solidarity, that many people help financially, many people help with the accommodation, and many people also volunteer. So this was the picture mainly from the media. But we really wanted to know more deeply if this was really the way of the solidarity, or it was like part of the volunteering, or it was like just the picture about it, because it was like, in the media, people were informed about it, and also we are trying to figure out if this volunteering during the crisis has the potential to repay also after the crisis finished. So I will present a little bit more, not the experiences with the volunteers, because I think that you will see it in all the presentations that they were present, and many of the services in the housing, in the first step of the help were issued by the volunteers. But I will present more people reflection, not from the experience, but I will present the research field. It will be specific only for Slovakia. And it's partially chosen from the research that we did last year, and we still continue. And maybe this is the topic that in the future it can be also interesting to compare in gathering the data other countries. I saw that there was a similar project, Visegrad project, focusing only on the volunteering side and volunteering during the crisis. So the idea is also to collect the data together and maybe look on this side of the activities. So I will present the data which are from the representative sociological research on 1,000 respondents in Slovakia, which is a normal number of the respondents, and we want to say that this is somehow counts for all the population in Slovakia. It was data was corrected by the professional agency. One of the best in Slovakia, and the collection took place between October and November 2023. So first of all, before I will present the participation of people volunteering during the crisis, the Ukrainian crisis, let me just give you the general picture, because we will have some connections between the volunteering in 2023 and volunteering during the crisis. So as you can see from these numbers, and this is long term, when we do the research, we always see that somehow 1/3 of the population in Slovakia is active and is involved in formal volunteering. It means in volunteering through or in organization. It was similar research in 2019, and the results are always somehow around this number, that it's 1/3 of the population, and it can be also one-time volunteering. So that they volunteer one time, but the number is something like this. Higher percentage of people, and it also in the B4 countries, is the characteristics that more people are involved in informal volunteering. So it means that they are helping other people or environment or organizing the activities, but they do not need any organization to do it. So they just do it themselves without any organizational context. So more people are involved in this informal volunteering. And this is the number of people who volunteered during the Ukrainian crisis and the first stages of the Ukrainian crisis. So you can see that it's the less as the percentage of people that normally volunteer. But this is not so important, because it's the specific issue is short term, it was like in like some of the period when people were really involved. So we cannot speak only from this number that it wasn't wave of the solidarity. So we need to look more deeply on who were these people and if we were able to engage also people who were not active. And as you will see from the like different data and different connections, it was not, it was like there were people that were already active in the volunteering. So, but first of all, like from the people who volunteered during the first stages of the Ukrainian crisis, you can see that most of them were involved in the volunteering in the first weeks and first month. Then it was like less and less people, and we could see it also from the experiences from the practice. That this wave of the solidarity, like it's like around 2 months, and it's then like the organization has the problem to find like new volunteers and to attract the new volunteers. And now some connections that you can see from this table is always like the people who volunteered during the Ukrainian crisis and like if they were involved in volunteering in this case in 2023. And you can see that like most of the people who were active in the volunteering crisis, they were also active in later like time. But they were also, like you can see from the table here, that most of the people who were volunteered during the Ukrainian crisis were volunteered also before 2023. And they were also involved in informal volunteering. And they also plan to volunteer in the future. So there is, like I can say, maybe one group of the people who are still active, and they are active also during the crisis. And we didn't manage really to motivate too many people to volunteer, like who were not active also before. And now we have, for example, the focus groups with the organization, and we are sharing like these research results, and they confirm that most of the volunteers who were active and who were involved also, for example, on the borders with Ukraine, were already their volunteers or their members, which is like really important for us because when we want to do some public policy in which we want to persuade, for example, government to somehow has a system in the time of the crisis and involve also volunteers, that we can show that you need to prepare these people, you need to work with them before the crisis. Otherwise, there will be no volunteers also during the crisis. And what I think is social profile of these people who volunteer. As you can see, like in all of the process, there are some significant differences that we were able to find in the social profile. So somehow the social profile of the people who volunteer during the Ukrainian crisis is a little bit different as the social profile of volunteers in 2023. And the social profile of the volunteers before 2023 and 2023 is somehow stable in Slovakia. So it's stable feature that mostly the members of the organizations are active, the people who are significantly more believers, who are like more educated, who are involved, and who his or whom household is its feature is financial like security, or they are coming from the higher or good average income families. But as you can see in the Ukrainian crisis, there are also some of the differences. So for example, more women were engaged during the crisis, and significantly less people up to 65, which is also like I think like we can say that it's like normal. There was also different based on the nationality, as you can see, like many Ukrainian people who were already in our countries, they were volunteered, and like in Slovakia, there were like significantly more like involved people from bigger cities, because also the people were coming to the bigger cities like Bratislava and Košice and Prešov region, which is like East Slovakia near the borders, like with the Ukraine. So, and this is also important when you want to attract people to be the volunteers. Whom should you like find, or who are the people that you should focus on? But also there is a question Like, for example, if we are still able to involve only people or mostly people with a higher education, what can we do to involve also people who are not so educated? Because they are also needed for the volunteering, and also volunteering can be beneficial for themselves. So we have also data about the motivation of people, why they volunteer during the crisis, but I just include this one, which is I think like interesting for the research, like for the project like itself that we have also together. So thank you for your attention.
Two things, what we want to believe, what we see, yes? But for example, there's a very practical issue, because you said there are 2 months, yes, that it is sustainable to rely on volunteers, yes? They really need the support of the local government, the countries. I remember the President said that our NGO says that we can't go on, yes, for a long period of time, yeah?
And also, it was like, we had a nice focus group with the NGOs which are involving mostly the Ukrainian volunteers, and they said that it was similar, that people from the Ukraine, they were volunteered at least like first 3 months, and then it was really hard to, involve them like more.
But it's a question of life experience. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and we are left, I applaud all of the speakers because you managed to keep up with the assigned time. So it has never ever happened before in my life. So we are happily left with a few minutes for questions or discussions. So if you have, of course, other questions or inquiries to your colleagues, please feel free to do it now. Other questions? Okay. If not, don't worry about that, because during our coffee break, we can start our coffee break a little bit earlier, and you will have time for individual discussion, yes, and individual remarks that you can exchange, yes. So we can close our session now, yes, and I invite everyone for a short break. Thank you so much.